All right, guys, here it is. Low light, end of shooting light. This is the evening. This is when shooting light's fading quick, or this is when the morning light is just starting to break. Deer comes in right there. You can see that you can, now I have this camera set. We're probably, I don't know how well this is going to turn out. We got it set at 6400 ISO at 2.2 aperture. I mean, we're struggling here, but we are technically not even the end of legal shooting light yet. There's probably 5 minutes of light left, but can you make this shot? Why do we miss this shot? You look at that right there. Does it seem, I mean, we're only right now, we're only about probably 11 yards, 10, 11 yards away. Is that shot doable? If you practice it, yes. So we'll dive in, but let's take it. There he is, right there. Can we do this shot? I cannot pick a spot physically on him. I need to project a spot. I need to be able to build where his body lines are. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let's try the shot before we get too dark and I can turn the light on. Okay, so there it is, and we drilled him. As you can see here, if we spin that, because I'm going to bring you over there and we're going to talk about it anyway, so let's just go. Okay, we'll go over here. And then we're going to turn a light on, and we're going to fix this where I can actually talk. So let's set this real fast. Give me half a second here. We're going to put that about right there. We're going to turn a light on so we can see. And then we are going to fix this ISO back down to something a little more realistic. All right, we're back on. So here's our shot, you can see, which is a perfect shot. We made a perfect shot. How do we make that perfect shot? Does it matter if you're on the ground or if it matter if you're in a tree? Can you only practice this shot from the ground if you're tree stand hunting? These are questions we have to answer because of the fact that when it comes time for you to be in the woods and that shot comes in, if you're in a tree and you go to shoot that, it looks a lot different than it does on the ground. But with it being technically almost dark, that last little bit of legal shooting light, as that light fades away, it gets hard to see those animals. They kind of silhouette out. Not to mention, especially deer, well, they silhouette. They also have that, it looks like from the tree, you get almost like a black streak on the top of them, and it just kind of, everything blends, and it makes it very difficult to understand. They're not actually square like this. They're also wide, and there's got all these variables that come into play on those angles for you from a tree and on the ground. We'll just address them differently. Same when it comes to something like a hog that we have down here, or a black bear. When you are getting to those low light shots, if you have not practiced them and you do not have the confidence to take these when it's there, and I'm not suggesting that you hunt past legal light, but right now it's still legal light out, and I would take this shot all day long still. It's right at the end. Again, camera kind of makes it look a little different here, but this is a very common scenario here. Now, if you are on the ground, you have to be able to identify the body of the deer. And when I say, I don't care if it's silhouetted or not, especially in the snow you get this. When I was in Michigan, it might even be a half hour before legal light ends, but you'll get the deer that will silhouette. Especially when you're in a tree and it's pure white snow behind them, they will silhouette out as soon as this light starts to fade, and they will be basically almost a black object against that snow. You have got to understand and learn how to define this line and this line, okay, where this pocket is, this corner pocket where the leg comes up and meets the body, and where the top of this is. If you can define those two spots, you can mathematically do the equation on exactly where that heart is and where you got to put that arrow, okay? And it's not hard. You'll have to project the spot because you can't pick it, but you can find it. You need to know where this is, the top of the back, and you need to know where this inside corner pocket is, where that leg is and where that body is, to be able to know where that spot is. You also have to know if that deer is broadside, quarter and away, quarter and two. Usually you can tell that by the legs, okay? If you know, when you're seeing through the legs or the angle of the body, you'll be able to see it. If it's getting too dark where you can't tell that, you're probably not, you're probably getting right at the end or probably past legal light here. So be able to identify that. And the reason I say that now is because down here in the swamps where I'm at, and especially right now where the greenery is still green down here, it's South Georgia, it's very dark in the swamps. It can be completely dark and impossible to see 15 minutes before legal shooting light is up. Okay, very common here. So we have to take those considerations in. But knowing that, what that relationship is between the top of that back and that inside corner, and then mathematically do it so that you just come up from that corner, you know the height difference, you can do that and determine where that is. Same with on a hog, same with on a bear, but if you cannot identify the top of the back in this inside corner pocket here, you're going to have nothing. It's not going to work for you. You're not going to be able to pull it off under any circumstances. So you need to know where those zones are. Now, when you're in a tree, it changes drastically, okay? When kids over there playing, it's like getting a weekend here. But when you are in, so let's pull this out. Okay, we're gonna yank that out of there. So that would be our shot on the ground where we want it. Now, if you are doing this from a tree stand, you're gonna ID this angle again and ID this angle here, but now instead of coming, you wanna do that math again, but instead of aiming right in here like where we hit, we gotta kind of do the math and realize that we need to come up a little higher, almost splitting the difference between here and that body in that corner pocket and putting that in so that that comes in and rides in on that angle and does the job. But we don't want to be right there. We want to change that angle in relationship to. Now it gets confusing because the width of that body and it's round. It's not square. Okay, so there is no defined edge. It rolls right into itself. So from a tree stand, we miss this shot a lot. Okay, unless you are practicing this regularly, shooting your judo at the end of the night before you get down, you know, that kind of stuff, planning for this and actually practicing this shot, it's going to get tricky for you. Once that deer starts to silhouette out, then you have to take that shot from a tree stand. It's much harder because it is now it is no longer a two-dimensional side of a deer like if you are on the ground, like when I'm hog hunting and I see that pig, it says a two-dimensional pig. Leg, belly, top of back, mathematical spot, draw it, shoot it, I'm done. It's real easy. From a tree stand, it's round, okay? I can still see where that leg is. I can see where the top of the back is. It's got a really weird geometric aspect going to it, and our eyes are naturally drawn to the lines. We will naturally, if you do this and you do not practice this shot, okay, and I know it's a pain to practice, but you're going to have to get out in the woods. You're going to have to get out there in the off season, which I do too. You know, as a matter of fact, when I made those videos this year earlier about how I showed you how I'm using my tether and my stuff, and I showed you how to use the knots that I use and all that kind of stuff, we stayed there and I had a dozen arrows with me, and right when it got last light, I was up that tree, foom, 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 practicing this on this very target. And that stand was out there with me. Why? It's mandatory that we do this. And I make a point to do this every single year before that season. But you have to practice this in those low light conditions so you can understand that. You can even do it on a well moonlit night. So if you're, say you can't hunt and say it's a Wednesday after work and you're not able to go out and hunt, take your 3D target to wherever you have a tree stand or can put one up at. Set up that tree stand, and in that darkness with that moonlight light in that area where you can see it and you get that silhouette factor of this, practice that tree stand shot. Okay, because if you don't, what's going to happen is you're going to go just like this, boom, right over top. You're going to shoot right over the top of the back, or you're going to shoot right underneath of it. There won't be anything in between. It'll go straight under, or it's going to go straight over. Why? Because your eyes are drawn to the lines, okay? They are naturally, you are going to have to, your eyes and your mind are going to have to build this geometric shape, and then you got to do the math. But if you build the shape, you're constantly trying to remember where that shape is. Your eyes will be drawn to here, or they will be drawn to this bottom pocket. You will shoot right over the top, or right underneath, just like that. It'll happen 9 out of 10 times, I promise you. So if you're going to hunt when it starts to get silhouetted animals, whether it is due to low light, it is due to snow on the ground, it is due to whatever the reason is, you will need to practice this. I am not saying push the limits. I'm not saying hunt after dark. I'm not saying any of that kind of stuff. I am saying though, but if you want these shots at low light in the mornings and low light in the evenings to be successful, you need to practice for them. You cannot practice that shot during daylight. There is no way to do it during daylight. Your only option is to practice it at night when it's almost dark in a real world scenario. Take a 3D target, okay, and it will not work with leaves, it will not work with pine cones, it will not work with a bag target, it will not work with anything. You need a 3D target. I'm not saying go buy a 3D target. Find a friend that has one. Find your local club and ask them, say, hey, look, I want to practice this tomorrow night. Can I go to shot number 7 where you're up on the platform and do this there? They will most likely let you, okay? Nobody's going to deny you this. Or call, you know, if you're in Georgia, call me up, say, hey, can I borrow your 3D target? I'll let you come and take it, and you can go do that, okay? It's not going to be hard to find this, but you want an actual 3-dimensional target to practice this shot on. There is no other way around it. And until you do that, if you don't have that done, you are going to miss regularly. You will shoot right over the back, or you will shoot directly under it. Your eyes are drawn to the lines. Your eyes and your mind have to build that. Okay, then your mind has to do the math. Drawing the edges is easy. Getting your eyes to lock in on the edges is not hard. Getting your eyes to lock on the edges and say there's the top of the back, here's the leg, here we come up, there's a corner pocket, boom. That's the hard part, okay? And unless you understand it, it's going to be a world of misses for you. So, or worse yet, you end up hitting up here high in the shoulder and you never find it. You know, that kind of thing, or you hit too low and all you do is just take one lung out like this, and now you got, you know, you're never going to find that deer, or if you do, it's because you brought dogs in. A lot of things happen. So practice these scenarios in real world scenarios. There's no other way to do it. Hope it's a good tip for you and hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching.